Okay, it's 8 a.m. I'll call the meeting of the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District Commission to order. We have Commissioner Lytle that's absent. We have an open seat. Commissioner Bookland's arriving. And the only person we have per virtual is Commissioner Freeze. So all the others are here if you're not absent, or the one open seat is actually being, we have an appointee already from the city of Madison for that, so they'll be sworn in at the next. Okay, so call the meeting to order. Welcome to all of our guests. Cassie, you want to go through the virtual meeting guidance, please?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you are attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. Now, as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still message the host if need be. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Any announcements? Got a couple.
Good morning, everyone. Amanda Wegner. I am filling in for Bill Walker, who is taking a well-deserved vacation. But just a few announcements this morning. As President Hubble mentioned, the City of Madison has appointed a new alder for the commission. That is Badri Linkella, who is the District 7 alder. District 7 is on the far southwest side, kind of nestled between Verona and Fitchburg. And our new commissioner, maybe listening in today, was going to try to drop in, and we will have his swearing in at the next commission meeting on May 5th. Also, just another announcement is commissioners should have received this week a calendar request from Cassie. We are having our inaugural CIP technical information meeting on Wednesday, May 13th. So that is a virtual meeting. It is a webinar, actually. From 11:30 to 1, where a handful of staff will be presenting on some of the more technical aspects of the CIP projects we have coming up in 2026 and early 2027. Commissioners are invited, not required to attend, but if you are able to drop in and listen, I think that will be informative and just helpful as we move into the budget process. And that is it for me.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. We have the appearances by the public. Is there anybody from the public in the room or online that wishes to appear? Anybody from the public? I don't see anybody, so we'll move on. We have the consent calendar. We have the approval of the meeting minutes from 4/10, the approval of the cash statement operating. We have a few sanitary sewer extension plans, a couple in DeForest, one in Wanakee, one in Middleton. And then we have the review of bids and award a contract for building computer room air conditioning replacement. So, any questions? And seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'm going to make that motion. Commissioner Meyer here.
Motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by
Commissioner Bookland. I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Bookland to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so Commissioner Clark's abstaining, everybody else was aye, the motion carries. Let's see, that will take us to topics. Approved transaction amount for engine generator 2 rebuild. Rick Rear.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Eric Herrera, Maintenance and Reliability Manager for the district. And today I'll be talking to you about engine 2 and the rebuild for that, and asking you to approve the transaction amount for that engine. All right, so it's been a while since I've actually given a presentation on engines here at the district, so I know we have some new commissioners, so I'll go through a little background first, of engines at the district, their maintenance, and then we'll get into the meat of what actually happened here. We have 3 engines here. They're all installed in the early 1990s as part of the gas utilization project. We have an engine blower and 2 engine generators. They're all the same engine. They're 12-cylinder Waukesha biogas-fired engines. They're basically like really large car engines. They have pistons, and they just basically turn a crankshaft that powers a generator or a blower. So the engine blower provides aeration to the east side of the plant. Our engine generators 1 and 2, they provide up to almost 11,000 kilowatts of power each day. They use about 145,000 cubic feet of our biogas daily, and they save the district nearly $1,000 each day in energy costs. And burning the biogas in the engines produces less greenhouse gas emissions than flaring the gas. As far as engine maintenance goes, we have routine preventative maintenance, minor engine overhauls, and major engine rebuilds. So our preventative maintenance occurs on an hourly basis. That's based off of our air permit. We have long and short PMs, so every 1,440 hours, we change the oil in the engine. That's about every 60 days. This is much more than actually Waukesha requires. They actually tell us to change the oil every 3,000 hours, so we're doing it on a much more frequently than they recommend, but that's because of our air permit. And every 120 days or every 2,880 hours, we adjust the valving on the engines to make sure the combustion gas or the air to fuel ratios correct for our air permit. Every 40,000 hours, or that's every about 4.5 years, that's with continuous operation. They don't operate continuously all the time, so about every 4.5 to 5 years, we do a minor engine overhaul. That's basically just replacing the cylinder heads. So the cylinder heads, which I'll show a picture shortly, they go on top of the pistons. They basically allow the air-fuel mixture into the cylinder to be combusted on one of the strokes of the engine. Then they allow the exhaust gas to come out of the engine on another one of the strokes. We also produce or have a general condition assessment of the whole engine done at the same time. This task is typically done by always done by a contractor. We don't have the means to do that here in an efficient manner. And then every 80,000 hours, or approximately 9 years, we do a major engine rebuild. So we're tearing down the entire engine, replacing all the wear components. It's sent to a outside facility to be cleaned and repainted. So as far as engine 2 goes, the timeline for the rebuild, on March 6th, we had bids open for the minor overhaul, which is just the cylinder head replacement and condition assessment. We awarded that contract to Rush Power Systems out of, they're near Rockford, for about $45,000. They came on April 2nd, began taking the cylinder heads off, and they noticed that the engine had some excessive wear in the cylinders and the pistons, and it was basically there was more wear than they expected, and we needed to get a full assessment of the engine to see what repairs needed to happen. So we authorized them to proceed with disassembly of the engine, and they came back with a list of their findings for us. So on April 8th, they met with us and discussed those options. They determined a full rebuild would be in the best option to prevent catastrophic failure in the future. The cost of the additional repairs is another $220,000. Total project cost is about $265,000, and the timeline of repair is 6 weeks from the approval of a PO to them. So just some photos here of the engine. This is with the cylinder heads taken off. That's where the pistons are. So this is one side. There's 6 cylinders on each side. Just to give you a scope here, that cylinder, the piston, the diameter is probably about 10 inches. So a normal car engine, the cylinders are about 3 to 5 inches. So this is much larger, much higher horsepower. And then this is what they were replacing as part of the minor overhaul. This is the cylinder head with the exhaust and intake valves. These are several hundred pounds each. Here's the premature wear they found. So on the left picture, those are the cylinder sleeves. You can see some scratching and scoring in there. The middle picture is the top of the piston, so there's excessive wear on the top. And the picture on the right, you can see all those, they look like scratch marks on the top of the piston. That's just excessive wear there as well. So this is something we wouldn't expect at this 40,000 hours. And I'm just giving you a scope here of actually what goes into this engine parts-wise. So this isn't all of them, but there's 3 pallets of parts on the left side. There's all the valve covers and the push rods on the right side. So there's hundreds and hundreds of parts that go into a rebuild like this. So I just wanted to provide a scope of the actual work. Now, for the future of the engines of the district, basically these engines must remain operational for the immediate future. They produce electricity and process air for the east side of the plant. They're a critical producer of process heat, and their consumption, they have beneficial, they provide for a beneficial use of our biogas. The liquid processing improvements project, that will have no effects on the engines, even though that is an aeration project. And we looked at the engines as part of this. We determined we cannot take the blower engine out of service because we have no use for the biogas. So the blower engine will remain even though we are redoing some of the aeration in the plant. And the main future of our biogas will be determined in the heat and power facility plan. That's currently in the works right now. Once that facility plan is finalized, there'll be a series of projects that are 5 to 10 years away that will just basically determine the fate of these engines if they're going to stay or go. So for the near future, we still need this engine to remain running. So my recommendation is to fully rebuild engine 2. A full rebuild will keep the engine reliable for until the future heat and power projects take place. We will still require another minor overhaul in 40,000 hours, so in about 5 years. And do our routine PMs every 60 days. So if we approve resolution 2025-0424R6, we'll hire Rush Power Systems to complete the work that they started, and I'm asking just for a total cost to not to exceed $300,000. Just in case something unforeseen comes up, there's a little bit of extra budget. We don't have to come back. With that, are there any questions?
Okay, anybody have any questions? Beth?
Commissioner Bookland, what is the expected lifetime of one of these engines? And then how much would it cost to replace one?
So the expected lifetime of the engines is, I wouldn't say not infinite, but these engines are made to be rebuilt. So they have a lot of removable components that can be replaced in the engine. The main thing, if we had a catastrophic failure in the engine block were to, need replacement, that would justify buying a whole new engine, I'd say, but everything else can be just put back into the engine. And a new engine of this size is in the millions of dollars.
Okay, I had a question. Do you know what, I think this is the engine I remember we had some trouble with repairing. Maybe it was engine 1, I don't know, several years ago. When it was sent out for a rebuild, I thought it was rebuilt in Waukesha or somewhere.
Let me think. So engine 1 had a rebuild a couple years ago due to an issue when we were doing the controls replacements. Okay. The blower engine was rebuilt several years ago as well. That was sent out to a facility that was a kind of a normal rebuild, so there weren't really any issues with that one.
Yeah. There's one that I remember we had trouble with, so maybe it's even years ago. So this was last rebuilt 5 years ago.
It was last rebuilt in 2019.
And what caused, normally this should have lasted like 9 to 10 years. So does anybody have any idea what caused wear on it and a way to kind of modify that or mitigate the premature wear, or is it just something that happened?
So we couldn't find any single event that caused this, and this engine would, I guess I'd say this engine would run for another maybe 10,000 hours, but for the risk running it like that. So the wear is actually, it's premature, but it's not like a catastrophic failure. So basically, we looked at the gas sampling. There was no issues with the gas. Our new control system had some, it was not tuned properly, so the engine was running a little richer than it should have, so more gas was being put into the cylinder. We talked to Waukesha, and that should not have an effect or have caused any of this damage. The only thing we can think of is possibly some overheating that occurred prior to the new controls being put in. The new controls are much more refined, keep the engine tuned better. So I'd be speculating if I said this is actually what caused this, but these are the several things we looked at.
Heat and power study is ongoing, and then that'll evaluate what we do with, maybe more with our biogas and whether or not these superfluous or operation.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody? Ezra?
Thanks for that presentation, Eric. This seems like the right thing to do. It feels like reliability-centered maintenance in action. You know, we're doing the moderate size investment to avoid really, really big ones and just keep everything running as best you can. So I think we're doing what we want to be doing with this kind of infrastructure. So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, quick question. The report said that the cost could be covered by the operating budget. Where in the operating budget are you finding the funds to pay for this?
So we have money in there for miscellaneous mechanical repairs, so there's money to cover that. And there's a couple projects that we're not going to get to this year that I'll be able to shift that money over.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big expense. Okay. So, do we have any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? If not, we have a vote to say aye if you're in favor of the Engine 2 rebuild up to an amount of $300,000. The amount of $300,000. Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. Greg, you didn't have any comments, did you?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Sorry about that. I forgot that you're on. Okay, so that will take us to reports. Eric and Amanda.
Sure, I will go first here. So in the packet today, Commissioners, you hopefully found a brief recap of the National Water Policy Fly-In. You may recall last Thursday, Eric and I came in a little ragged after being in D.C. for 2 days and getting home late. And I won't rehash that whole report, but just kind of draw your attention to a few highlights. So the district, this is an annual event hosted by a number of wastewater organizations and associations. The district has been attending for a few years. I know some commissioners have gone in the past. I know Paul has accompanied in the past, but this is the first time Eric and I both participated. There's a half-day program that is sponsored by the agencies who host this. And they bring in a number of EPA and folks from the EPA and federal government. As you will read in the report, there was nothing revolutionary in what they shared. Their primary message is that they were reviewing their regulatory policies to conform with the administration's priorities. So I will let you interpret that as you will from the report. So the highlight, though, is we met with staff from Senator Baldwin, Senator Johnson, and Representative Pocan's office. They were all good meetings, and they were receptive to our issues. Very quick meetings, 20, 25 minutes. So you get in and you just start talking. We specifically talked about a piece of legislation for better labeling of wipes. It's called the Wipes Act, appropriately. That is a bipartisan and bicameral bill that we're hoping will get through. We also talked about PFAS, particularly the importance of the producer pays model, and preserving the ability to apply biosolids. As a side note, I did hear an interview with the EPA administrator over the weekend on one of the national news shows who was actually talking about the importance of the producer pays model. So that was a bit heartening. And then we also talked about federal funding. So we have talked here about state clean water fund availability, so that state money is first allocated by the federal government, and in the coming months, a number of committees will be reauthorizing that funding, because those programs expire next year, including the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. So it's critical this funding is reauthorized and passed down to the states. You can see our fact sheets. I included them in the packet, and it was certainly a fruitful, a good trip, good conversations, good relationships, and already planning return for next year. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay. Eric?
All right, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So the other topic in here for reports is the first quarter bills for customer communities for service charges. Excuse me. Just to make sure you guys are aware, this was talked about by Bill Walker a few months ago about changing our process and just putting them into the packet for you guys. We had legal review this to make sure there was no requirements for the commission to approve the bills before they go out, and they maintained that we don't have to do that process. So these are just in here for you now as reference, and then an opportunity if you have any questions on it, you can do that.
Okay, thanks. Ezra, you got any reports for the executive director?
Yeah, we just met this week, so one meeting since last time we all met. But we got to a place where we pretty much have the 6-month ED review process kind of nailed down. So that includes a questionnaire that will go out to the director level folks, both Bill, at this point it's Bill, and then the entire layer of management folks who are, used to be CED direct reports, but now are at that level. So we're going to ask all those folks for feedback on the first 6 months, and then we're also going to send a questionnaire to the ELC for each of those individual members of the ELC. I think there are 8 who give us some feedback that way. Not missing any part of that, am I?
Yep, you're missing one thing, and
okay.
That's okay. So all staff will have input through the district's annual employee engagement survey,
which we haven't had to work directly on, but is a nice compliment. Yeah, that Amy Deming and other folks on staff have been working on. So, and we've got a question that does tie to CED, or to ED, sorry, 6-month review that's going into that all staff survey. So that combined with a self-evaluation we'll get from Eric and commission meeting sometime in July will kind of give us the totality of our 6-month review. And then other than that, we're just kind of starting in on process to really look at the long-term sort of annual CED review. I think CED, 15 years of habit. I'll get over that. But so we're working on the long-term process for the annual review, and eventually there will be a consultant hired in there and whatnot. But anyway, that's the stuff we're going to turn to in our next couple of meetings. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Ezra? Nope. Okay. So let's see, capital projects update. Lisa Coleman?
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Lisa Coleman. I'm the Director of Engineering, and Cassie is pulling up our slides for today for the capital projects update. Okay, let's see if this thing works. All right, look at that. Works today. Okay, so a preview of what I'm going to talk about today. So we want to talk through an overview of projects that are in the various phases, planning, design, and construction. Then we'll talk a little bit about, it's only the end of the first quarter, but we'll talk a little bit about 2025 to date, so bids that we've received to date, and also projects completed to date in 2025. And then we'll go through a few slides of project highlights. And as I've mentioned before, our plan with these updates going forward is that we want to do these updates quarterly. And over the last 3 quarters or so, as we've been doing this more regularly, you know, I'm finding it's a good opportunity for transparency. It's a good opportunity, also good chance for us to sort of showcase the progress that, you know, projects are generally going, you know, as planned and moving along, you know, from planning to design to construction. We're getting a lot done, and I hope that's coming through as we're doing these updates. And I'll try to highlight, you know, some of those things as we go through the things that are moving, you know, moving from this to that kind of thing. All right. So first in planning. Eric did a nice job of doing my job for me already here with heat and power improvements facility plan. So you got a little bit of a recap of sort of what that's all about. You know, and that'll inform again the path forward for biogas and, you know, how we're using engines or not, that kind of thing. So that is moving along nicely. That's scheduled to be completed later this year. The other, in the treatment plant category, the other large facility plan that we're working on is the biosolids facility plan. So that one I'm showing in yellow, just because we're a little bit behind in schedule-wise on that. The kind of contracting and startup part took a little longer than expected, but I believe we have a kickoff next week. So we're getting rolling on that one. And again, those are both large facility plans that will inform, you know, a number of projects, future projects moving forward, interconnected projects at the treatment plant. Okay, so into the interceptor category. And for the interceptors and pumping stations, we're showing those as red. Those are projects we're not actively working yet as of, you know, the first quarter. So the first 2 are rehab projects, lining projects. So you might recall that construction of those, we talked about earlier, moving those out a little bit later, into later years. When we added, in the fall, we added the 9 Springs Valley Interceptor Phase 2. And so we talked about kind of moving some of the lining projects out to accommodate that. So that's what we're seeing there. The West Interceptor on Regent, the 3rd interceptor project there, that's one that's kind of just sitting on our radar. We are coordinating on that with several sort of interrelated City of Madison projects. So the schedule for that one will unfold as the Madison projects schedules become clearer. So that one may kind of sit a while until there's an opportunity for us to get in there to coordinate with other work. It's not one of those projects that we would really just do ourselves. It's like wait for an opportunity kind of a project. So that's what that one is. The last one on the list, the pumping station and force mains, crosstown air release valve work, that we anticipate starting on the design of that. Eric's maintenance folks are going to be working on that. That'll be starting in the 3rd quarter of this year, we anticipate. All right. On to design projects. There is, as you can see, a lot in the hopper here that we're working on. And again, the stoplight colors here are kind of indicative of how it's going. So I'll talk quickly about some of these. For liquid processing phase 2, remember that if you look in the CIP, you know, and I'm trying to make these so they're fairly consistent in the format with the CIP, you know, the way we're breaking out lists between treatment plant interceptors so that you could look at the CIP and then you could look at this and kind of see where we're at. But just remember that if you look at the CIP for, you're not going to see a project called liquid processing phase 2. You're going to see 6 sub-projects, which we've now bundled together. So just a reminder, if you're looking back, you know, that's what you're going to see. So I'm not going to talk in detail about liquid processing phase 2 today, but I do want to note that we'll have an item on the agenda for the next commission meeting, so the first meeting in May, to provide an update on that project. And a little bit of a spoiler alert of what that's going to be about. You might recall when we talked last fall when we were approving the detailed design amendment for that. We were going through a process of evaluating a long list of additional related but not otherwise included assets to determine whether it would make sense to include those and replace them as well with the project. So we've completed that process of going through all those assets, inspecting all those, looking at those with our consultant. We have a finalized list, and we're going to be coming back next month with a recommendation to add scope to the project to accommodate those replacements. So that'll be coming next month. For some of the other updates on treatment plant projects for the Lagoon Dike Improvements Project, I've got a more detailed update on that later in the presentation, so I won't talk in detail about that now. Dryer and seating modifications is a project in the Struvite Recovery Building. That I'm just showing as yellow just because we got started a little later than we had hoped, but we are almost ready to post an RFP for that, so we're making good progress on that. Okay, so on the interceptor list, a couple things I wanted to highlight. The Northeast Interceptor 2X extension rehab, that we're showing as red. We're not actively working on it now. You might recall we prioritized the West Interceptor Shorewood rehab project ahead of that one, so we're getting underway with that other one, and then we'll have time to come back to this one. For the Southeast Interceptor relocation at the Yahara River, that one, that you might recall also we're working on coordinating that with a DOT project that'll be along Highway 51, where the bridge over the Yahara River is. And we've been working with the DOT, the Town of Dunn Sanitary District, number 3, Keegansa Sanitary District, Village of McFarland, to put those plans together. It's moving a manhole, but it's very complicated as there's a whole bunch of other folks' facilities come into our manhole there. So it's a tricky spot to deal with. But that we have been making very good progress on that. I just changed it to yellow, though, because we got a bit of a surprise recently when we got the latest DOT plans. We may need to relocate more than we had planned on. So they sort of surprised us with some parts of their design where we thought we were going to be okay, and it's like, whoops, no, that retaining wall is really close to us. So we are evaluating that, and we will figure out whether it behooves us to move more or not. So working on that. And I think those were kind of the highlights that I wanted to hit for the design projects. And again, we'll talk about a few of these in a little bit more, a couple of these in a little bit more detail with the highlights. Okay, on to construction. So we have a lot of active projects under construction. Here's a map with our current major construction projects. So there's 11 projects shown on this map. So there's 3 projects here at the plant. Those are shown in blue. And then there's 5 interceptor projects. Those are shown in purple. 1 is up in Westport, Wanakee. 2 are along University Avenue in Madison. 1 is along, this is a different one along Highway 51 south of the Beltline. So another project there on the Southeast Interceptor. And then another one in the city town of Verona. So that's the purple one that's shown down to the southwest. And then finally, for pump station and force main projects, we've got 3 of those shown. Those are shown in teal. So 2 of those are down to the southeast related to pumping station 17 in Verona. So those are the ones, down on the lower left. And then 1 is at pumping station 4 on John Nolan Drive. All right. So those projects listed, the ones we just talked about on the map are listed here with the stoplight colors. So again, I won't talk about everything on here, but I'll kind of hit the highlights. So I wanted to highlight a couple changes from the last presentation. You will notice if you compare back that one project that came off the list is the 2021 HVAC improvements project. So that construction is complete, so that's not on this list anymore. And then another change you might notice is there's a couple projects in italics listed there under interceptors. Those are not new projects, but they're projects that came off the design list and moved into the construction list. So just kind of put those in italics to kind of highlight that. So All right, so a few details on some of these projects. The first one up there at the treatment plant, the sludge thickeners, that is a project our maintenance team is handling. That's underway. I'm showing it as yellow only because it's been bid, but it's one of those projects where it's been bid and then it takes a long time to get the equipment. So there's like a 40-week lead time on that equipment. So I think they bid it in March, and so it'll be a bit yet until we get that constructed. For the other plant projects under construction, here's a couple of those two other projects listed at the treatment plant. Those are both projects that were on the construction list last time we talked. However, they were kind of in the paperwork submittal phase, and on both of those projects now we've actually broken ground and are, actively moving dirt around and, doing actual construction now. So that's the electrical service equipment replacement project and the flow splitter improvements. And I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about the flow splitter, hard to say that one, during the project updates. Let's see. What else was I going to say here? So we talked about how we've just bid the ones that are shown in italics. Into the interceptor projects, the Northeast Interceptor Wanakee extension. I'll have a project update highlight on that in a few slides too, so I won't talk in detail on that one. The West Interceptor Shorewood Relief Phase 3, I'll also have a detailed update on that later in the slide, so I won't get into that in detail here either. And then lastly, down at the pumping stations and force main category, so pumping station 17, firm capacity improvements, showing that one as yellow just because of the underway, but equipment, flow on equipment. So making progress there, but it's, not a ton of actual, digging and doing and installing because kind of waiting on equipment. And then another change to notice here on the pumping station force main list is for pumping station 17 force main relief phase 2. Wanted to highlight that the pipe is all in on that project. So that has all been, pipes all in, all tested, all good to go. And we're working on kind of cleanup and restoration on that project. So that one will be, it'll take a little while to, work its way through like final completion, but the meat of the work is done there. And then I just wanted to, I can't resist telling you about the pictures. So I always love construction pictures. So the upper right picture, that's just north of the effluent building. That's the starting work on the electrical service equipment replacement. So there's a new building that we're constructing to house the switchgear and some other equipment. So that's what that is up there, starting to work on that. And then the picture to the lower right, that's at pump station 17. So that is the new utility vault that we're putting in, or we have put in. That will be basically the location where all the valving is. That'll allow us to switch between basically the old force main and the new force main, and switch either or both to make those use both of those force mains. So that was quite a project. It's hard to see the scale, but it's a pretty big vault. So that was a bit of a project getting that installed. So that is a good one to get in there, and I think it will facilitate now, getting the rest of the process piping and valving and all that stuff in there. So. Okay, on to kind of year-to-date summary stuff. So projects completed to date in 2025 through first quarter. So I mentioned the 2021 treatment plant HVAC improvement project. I'm cheating a little bit. You have not seen the final completion acceptance of work come through yet because we're still closing out paperwork on that project. But all the construction is done, all of the equipment is in service. So, that's essentially complete except for all over but the shouting, I guess I'll say. Not really shouting, just close out paperwork. So just a little more information on what that project was. That was upgrades on HVAC equipment in the Metro pumping station, in the Headworks building, in the GBT, which is a gravity belt thickener building, and in the DAF, which stands for dissolved air flotation. So the DAF is that arched building, that the domed building you can see in the picture. Sort of a fun fact with that one is that some of the equipment that we replaced used to be on the roof of that structure, and we were able, with this project, to basically replace it on the ground instead. So you can imagine why our maintenance staff wasn't wild about servicing equipment on the roof of that domed structure. So just kind of a fun tidbit about that project. All right. For bids so far in 2025. So far this year, we've bid 2 projects. And again, these are the larger projects that my team is handling, not all of, we've bid other maintenance sort of projects too. But the larger projects, 2025, we've bid the West Interceptor Rehab, Seago to Shorewood. So that's a lining project that's going to be starting up, I think, week after next. And so that was awarded to Visu Sewer at a cost of $895,000. And then the second project that we've bid so far this year is Lower Badger Mill Creek Interceptor Phase 6. And that was awarded to Integrity for $3.4 million. So all told, that's $4.3 million in new construction contracts first quarter this year. Okay, into a few project highlights. So I'm going to talk about briefly just about 4 projects. First one I wanted to talk about a little bit was the flow splitter improvements. So as I mentioned, this one, the actual digging and work started up in March. August Winter is the contractor on that one. It's going well. And I just wanted to kind of remind you what this project is. So the flow splitter structure is just downstream of Headworks, and it is a structure that 100% of the flow that enters the plant goes through this structure. So it allows us to split flow in basically whatever proportions we would like between the east and the west plants. And it's actually a really interesting and kind of ingenious structure. There's a rendering at the top that sort of shows how it works. It took me a while looking at plans, like how does this thing work? So it's not intuitive when you just see it from the outside. You can't really tell what's going on inside that thing. But what is happening is that there's those 3 large pipes that come in from the left are coming from the grit chambers and Headworks. Those flow into the west side of the structure. Then all the flow goes underneath the outbound channel that goes to the west plants. And then the flow comes up, and then it spills over into a series of troughs that have movable stop plates in them. That is, moving those plates around is what allows us to, split the flow. And then from those troughs, the flow either goes, east or west, and it either goes to the channel that on the west that flows to the west plant, or it goes to the channel on the east. And going to the west plant flows out to the north there, and then going to the east plant flows out to the east there in the structure. So it's really an interesting structure. You might remember that the whole purpose, so that's kind of how it works, but the whole purpose of the project is to repair concrete degradation in the structure. And you can imagine that that's no small feat when you have 100% of the plant flow has to go through this structure. So the first part of the project really is to build a permanent bypass for the flow splitter structure. And the reason for doing that is that we can use it during construction to minimize the amount of time that we have to bypass pump. So bypass pumping is obviously a expensive and risky operation at the large flow rates we're talking about here. So the permanent bypass structure allows us to shorten the amount of time that we need to do that, which is good. And then the other good thing is that, even after we're done using this for construction, this permanent bypass can stay in place so that then we have the ability to do routine inspections, maintenance of the structure, and, you know, be able to divert the flow so that we can actually look inside the structure and see how things are looking in there. That was kind of one of the issues of this. We weren't really able to inspect it, and then all of a sudden when we were able to inspect it, it was like, ooh, wow, this looks bad, you know. So, so building that bypass structure is a good thing for a number of reasons. What that bypass structure looks like, it's a little hard to see on the plans there, but I've highlighted in yellow basically what that looks like kind of going around the structure. So on the west side of the structure, there's a kind of a concrete channel, and then wrapping around the north side and around the south side, there's 60-inch pipe that connects into those existing pipes. So you can see, and that's what they're working on right now, that bypass structure. So they're working on the concrete channel part of it that's on the west side of the structure mainly. Those pictures, you can see the construction pictures are just to turn you around. I'm looking from north to south there, but you can see the formwork and the rebar getting put in for that concrete bypass channel. You can see those three large tan pipes are those three pipes that are coming out of the grit and headworks. So that's what those are. So it's going well, and it's an interesting project to see, you know, how the construction is going. And it's actually kind of fun because I can see what's going on out my window. So when I don't feel like doing other stuff, I can just walk over there and see what's happening. So kind of nice. All right. And schedule-wise, that's scheduled to be complete this fall, back to the flow splitter. So a relatively fast burn on that project. All right. Northeast Interceptor Wanakee Extension Capacity Improvements Phase 1. So this one is located in Wanakee and Westport. Part of the project, there's a map actually up on the upper right. It's a little hard to see, but it's just north, kind of north and east of the intersection of M and 113. And so part of the project is a relief, so all of it is a capacity project, but part of the project is a relief sewer, which basically means a parallel sewer where you keep the old sewer in service but add an additional one. And then part of it is upsizing, you know, replacing and upsizing an older sewer. So again, it's right by M and Highway 113. So the new pipe, the old pipe is basically the east leg, I'll call it, and then the new pipe is the other way around. The new pipe is the east leg and the old pipe is the west leg. So the highlighted stuff in yellow is the new pipe, and the yellow part is what all is in. So you can see that the east-west portion there is the only part that's not there yet, that remains to be completed. So really good progress on pipe install here. We're ahead of schedule on this one, which is great. You might recall when we last talked at our last update, I was concerned because we had just discovered that there was bedrock at the tunnel location under 113. So that was a unfortunate surprise, and you can see that bedrock in the picture to the lower left. So it's, you know, it's pretty intact sandstone. So I am happy to report that the bore is complete. The tunnel is complete. So we were able to pivot and use a different method to get through there. We looked at some other options. We looked at, should we relocate? Is there a different way to go? You know, how could we, could we cross a little bit further south and avoid the bedrock? What we figured out is, you know, we did some additional soil borings and some checking. What we figured out was it would be actually worse if we moved. So staying in the current location was a better option, and just attempting to use different equipment. So that's what we did. And so we used, the contractor was able to bring in a different tunneling equipment. This thing is called a Robbins SBU, or a Robbins small boring unit. So you can see a picture of what that looks like on the upper left, and you can see kind of the teeth to chew through the rock there, and it worked well. We mostly stayed very close to grade going through there. So that's really great that that's complete. So tunneling is always risky, and those of us that are involved with it always sleep better once it's done. So, so that is good. So that's the good news. Good news is it's done. The bad news is it's going to cost us, right? Because it's a change in conditions and a change in methods. And there also will be on that east-west leg that's still in, there's bedrock there too that will need to be excavated in, a different method than the contractor planned on. So we will be coming back. We have a, typically if we're within 5% on our change orders, we are not coming back for that, but we will be exceeding that on this project because of the rock. So we will have an item on the next commission agenda to approve exceeding that 5% threshold. So stay tuned for that next month. All right. Next project I wanted to talk a little about, since we haven't talked about this one in a while, is the Lagoon Dikes improvements. So this project, as some of you are aware, Lagoon 2, which is across Moreland Road from us here, is a closed Superfund site. There are PCB containing biosolids within those historic lagoons, which are capped within this area. And those of you that were here in 2018 may recall that the berm surrounding the lagoon was nearly overtopped during the kind of flooding events in 2018. And if that berm were overtopped, it could lead to releases of these the PCB containing materials into the environment, which obviously is something we would like to avoid. So that's kind of the main driver of this project, trying to make this more resilient to flooding. So we've been working on planning this project for several years now. It's a sneakily complicated project. It sounds easy, right? There's a berm, it needs to be higher, just make the berm higher. Sounds easy, is actually quite complicated and difficult because of the permitting and the EPA stuff, and then also because of the geotechnical conditions out there and the actual, wetlands. I mean, you name it, there's a permitting issue that goes with trying to make this happen here. So, so it's a sneakily complicated project, but we are honing in on, getting it completed here. So we're on track to bid early 2026, and we have kind of a two-pronged solution here. So the first phase will be kind of the most critical part. So the part where the berm is the steepest or the skinniest and the lowest, and sits on I'll say the worst pudding foundation. So that part, and it looks like the slide got a little messed up here, but it's the circled area, the south berm. The circle somehow got offset there, but the southernmost berm on the slide there of Lagoon 2 is the part where the trickiest part. So in that part, that's the first most critical part we'll build. The solution we're working on final design of is a vinyl sheet pile wall. So if you've seen a sheet pile wall that's just driven into the ground, this looks like that, but it's vinyl because it's lightweight. So that makes it so that it's not going to sink in. It'll stick up a couple of feet and provide the flood resiliency that we need. The reason that works well here is because we do not want to we looked at some other solutions with lightweight fill. I think that's the last time we updated you, we were looking at those alternatives. Even very lightweight fill is too heavy for this particular location because of the geotechnical conditions. So, so this is going to be a good cost-effective solution, I think, here. So then the remainder berms they're a little less critical because they're already higher and they require less basically building up. Those we are going to be able to do, and I anticipate that would be a later phase of the project, but those we can do with sort of more traditional methods that we've already used out there, which are using a lightweight fill mix consisting of a mix of soil and wood chips. So the geotechnical conditions aren't quite as severe there. So that can be a little bit more conventional. So again, this one has taken a while. It's been a bit of a slow burn because of all the permitting and design issues, but I think we should be ready to bid this early next year. Yeah,
Won't vinyl break down with time? No?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it has a pretty long, I can check with what the intended or the rated life of it, but it's a pretty long time because it's an inert material, you know, it's not going to break down. Yeah.
I got a question on that. So even though it was capped, you're still concerned that water, that the PCBs that are below the cap could leak out?
Well, it would be more of a, if the integrity of the, so if it overtopped, then the berm would wash out. And if the berm washes out, then the cover will wash
Oh, I
out.
see. You're concerned
Yep.
about the lower part of the berm washing out and then the cover washing out.
Correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, and then the last project that I wanted to touch on is West Interceptor Shorewood Relief Phase 3. So as a reminder, this is the last phase of a 3-phase capacity upgrade project. So you can see the 3 phases on the top of the slide there. So phase 1 was completed a few years ago now, and that was the green stretch of pipe, sort of the westernmost leg over by the Blackhawk Country Club in Shorewood. Then phase 2, which is the blue phase, happened. That's complete. That happened with the DOT project along University Avenue. That pipe was actually, some of it was under the active traffic lanes, so that's why it was coordinated with the DOT's project. And then the last phase, I'm sorry, phase 2 is purple. Phase 2 is purple up there, or pink, purple-pink. And then the last phase is blue. That's phase 3. So that's the phase we're talking about now. Phase 3 is actually in 2 pieces, weirdly enough. So phase 2 is sort of sandwiched between the pieces of pipe for phase 3. And the westernmost piece of that, we're calling that kind of the Shorewood leg. So that's sort of by the Shorewood pool and the bike path kind of area. That piece, we bid this all, so those pieces of phase 3 were bid together last year. We've mostly completed the pipe install along the Shorewood leg. There's a little bit left, but it's mostly complete. So we're getting that wrapped up, getting the restoration done there. And then very soon we'll be beginning on the eastern leg of phase 3, which we're sort of calling the Highland leg. That's kind of near the map to the aerial photo there to the south is sort of the location. That's kind of the traffic control. It doesn't show the pipe, but the location we're talking about is there. So kind of the off-on ramps to Campus Drive and also Highland, kind of in that area. So on the aerial there, you can just see the red shows some of the closures, and then the green shows the bypass line that we're going to need to put in to get the pipe installed. So, and I just wanted to talk about this one briefly because what I want to mention here is just that it was very heavy coordination with external parties regarding the traffic control here. So we will be needing to have phased closures of the southbound Highland, and then also the on and off ramps from Campus Drive. And as you can imagine, that has required a lot of involvement with UW Hospital is just north of here. The VA Hospital is just north of here. Forest Products Laboratory, you know, other businesses there, University of Wisconsin, traffic, Madison Metro is involved because there's bus lines here that are affected. City of Madison Engineering is involved, traffic, City of Madison Traffic is involved because of the complicated, you know, traffic phasing and setups here. So we knew this would be a big deal, but, you know, the railroad is here, always to add fun, you know, throwing railroad into the mix always, always makes things even more complicated. So we knew this was going to be complicated, but it has turned out to be, you know, even more complicated than we thought. And I just want to mention that for 2 reasons. You know, first, I want to say thank you to all these internal and external folks that have been involved. You know, the many external partners have helped us through this and been involved and, you know, helped us come up with plans that are workable to minimize the disruption for everybody. So we appreciate everybody's considerable efforts in that regard. And then internal parties too as well. You know, Amanda and her comms team, you know, have done a great deal of work on this. We appreciate that. Eric Jellin on my team has, you know, patiently plowed through all of this with everyone. And so, so just want to kind of acknowledge those folks and thank everybody for their kind of very significant efforts here. The other reason I just want to mention this project is I just want to kind of reiterate that our projects through these, you know, congested and developed areas are complicated and they take, you know, a lot of time and effort to work through. It's a lot different than putting a pipe in a cornfield, when we're working, you know, in these urban corridors. And there's a lot more to consider than just putting a pipe in the ground. You know, the pipe part is the easy part oftentimes of some of these sort of projects. So just wanted to mention that one a little bit. So, and there's the slide on the left, or the photo on the left, you can't see it that well, but we have really nice website updates, and there's capability there. If you want to get updates, you can sign up, and then anytime Eric's providing, you know, weekly updates so that stakeholders all can stay informed. And there's links from Madison's website to ours so that everybody can find us and find the right people when they have questions. So if you're interested in updates, make sure you sign up and you'll get updates. Oh. And that is what I've got for today. I'm happy to take any other questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Anybody have any questions? Ken?
Thank you, Lisa. Your update is appreciated, and it's impressive you finger on the pulse of all these projects at the same time. The question I have is more of a budget and financial one. It would help me as a commissioner. There's a way to, here's a project, here's a stage, here's what was budgeted for that project, and here's what we spent to date. The reason I ask is because I keep going back to the ask versus the spend question from our member communities. I think if we could find some way to connect the dots on that, that would help the whole process of communication on, hey, you asked for this amount of money, this is what we spent there, and the estimated completion date too, because I know some of these projects are not a 12-month thing. Could be 20, 36.
Yeah, okay, that's helpful feedback. I know our budget and planning group has been kind of thinking about how we can talk about financials and that kind of thing, and so that's something we can think more about how to do.
Good job.
Beth?
Thank you, Lisa. It was good. I'm just curious. I'm sitting here looking out the window and I see two big piles of dirt and some construction. What is that?
That's the flow splitter. So
okay.
the flow splitter is, if you're sitting where I'm sitting, you can, the yellow, you know, heavy equipment over there that's working at the flow splitter. So those piles of dirt are really just from digging that hole that I showed pictures of. That's what that material is right there.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thanks.
So I got a question, it might be more for Paul, but I think Lower Badger Mill Creek, that's the one that we had to condemn property on, right?
Correct.
And where does that sit with that condemnation committee?
Hearings, I can answer that. So we have there's two property owners, where we have legal things going with them, and one is, so easement-wise, we have the easements. You know, we're starting, we have paid already, actually, and, so we have the ability to begin our work. It's not gonna hold up the project. But the hearings then are, to go through the due process of were they fairly compensated, all of that kind of stuff. So, one of those hearings is tomorrow, and then, the next one, I believe, is Monday. So, and as Paul can answer this better than I can, but my understanding is that's probably not a one-stop shop either. Like, no matter how that goes, there may be more coming with that, so.
I mean, so, do they have, more people filing, or they?
No,
No,
no.
these two might go on, so this is kind of exhaust your administrative remedy thing before court?
Yeah, it's an administrative process, like a contested hearing of courts. And there are other options.
So my understanding is even if, things go favorably for us at the beginning, there still may be more things coming.
So they could,
So,
so even after this decision, they could challenge it in court or something?
correct.
Okay. But, I've been involved in condemnation before, and I don't ever remember hearing about the condemnation commission. So I was always thinking it was kind of another kind of final step, but it can still go to court. Okay. Okay, Brad?
Well, and I was just gonna add that, when it's all said and done, it would be interesting to go back and do a review of, process, the initial compensation that was offered and what we ended up spending after it's all done, just to see how that all looks.
Might be a lot more fees involved than it was for the, payment for the property right. Okay. Let's see, anybody else? Oh, okay, thank you. That takes us to Alan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Alan Grooms, Operations Manager for the district. I'll be doing the monthly operations report. We'll be looking back at the month of March. So we've retooled these graphics a little bit. Everything looks is tracking really well as far as our treatment performance. We had a graphic added. There was a question that came up last time about what that shaded area actually represents. So what that is one standard deviation about either way of the 3-year average for that parameter. So that kind of gives you an indication of whether we're kind of in that normal one range. And I believe a standard deviation is what 68% of the values will fall within that. So, it kind of tells you whether that's, pretty average, pretty normal performance, or if we're a little bit above or below, are we exceeding, what's been normal performance versus the end of the gauge, which is, our limit is presented here. So in all cases here, these are, well below our limits. Most are in the, normal performance range. Phosphorus is a little bit low, which is a good problem to have. That's fairly typical in that kind of winter, early spring. We get actually quite a better settling overall. Later in summer, the solids go up, and because we do biological phosphorus removal, and the phosphorus is part of the way that works is the phosphorus is uptaken in the biology. So if we're pushing more solids out, some of those are biological solids, and they're enhanced phosphorus content. So that's why we see those numbers tend to track together. And then fecal coliform is very low. We just first month of the disinfection season, those units are starting out very clean. But even that's a pretty remarkable value, I thought, given that we were also starting clarifier cleaning. So, and I've found a way to do that while we're disinfecting. We do notify DNR that we're doing that, but we've actually found a way to do it without severe degradation of our limits. So I was actually a little surprised how good we did here, but I'll take the results. So any questions on March plant performance? Okay. And we do the quarterly update on the metrics. Biosolid storage at the end of the month of March was 76% full. We did get about a week and a half ago, a good haul-out period, about a week long. That's approximately 50% of what we're doing for spring haul-out in that period. But we had a good first phase, and we're just waiting for another dry spell to kind of hopefully finish up our spring haul-out, and maybe a little bit early. Metro cake, we did make some centrifuge cake. This is our Class A cake, so we got to run that several times this year. Everything came together for us on that. Struvite production, 158.7 tons through March that we've sold or had transported off-site. And then, MetroGo, this is a reflection of what we're sending to the biosolid storage tanks. So, pretty much all these values are right on track with what we might expect. Nothing that I would call your attention to specifically. Are there any questions on this metric?
The only question I have is on 24 and 23. Are those 3 months or 12 months? On the, like it says 24, it says 200.
On the Metro cake? Yeah, those are, that's a good question. Those are, on the previous years, those are 12-month values. So yes, in the case of our Metro cake for 2025, we made more than what we had in 23 and 24 combined. We had a couple of equipment issues in those 2 years that conspired to keep us down a little bit. So, but yeah, it's a little bit more normal value in 2025. Good observation.
Bit of a off-the-wall question, but I wonder if you know, Alan, where's Asteris selling the Struve? Is it going to Wisconsin? Is it going around the country? Is it going overseas? Do we have any sense of where it ends up?
So where Asteris selling the Struve, you know, they take care of the production, the marketing, distribution of that. So, as they've developed that market, my understanding is most of it is not staying in Wisconsin. Most of it is leaving Wisconsin, but they've got facilities all around the world. And so it a little bit depends on the size product that's being made. There's different pellet sizes. And so depending on how that, chemically it's all the same, but as far as the size and where they have the warehouses kind of determines where things go. My understanding is a lot of what we make goes to Minnesota and the Dakotas. Potatoes and sugar beets is my understanding. A little bit sandier soils that tend to hold that. It sounds like they have used some up in the Stevens Point area. Kind of, again, that's kind of a sandier soil with some of the food production up there. But yeah. But we don't get a blow by blow where they send it. We have asked a little bit at times for some of our materials. Early on, I think there was some concern, not concern, but we were talking about with our Yahara Winds program that we're moving this phosphorus out of our watershed, and we want to make sure that, that they aren't selling it all within our watershed, and so we're not unintentionally saying something that is misrepresenting what's actually the case. So.
Okay, Greg, you have a question?
Yep, real quick. Thanks, Alan. On the Metro Grow cake, do you just produce as much as you can? Do you have a buyer lined up, or do you produce to order?
So for the Metro cake, we typically make that in the spring, from usually about mid-January through the end of March. We've got farmers that will take it, but they need a little bit different equipment right now, and we don't necessarily make enough of it to push. With liquid product, we've got the applicators and transportation for that pretty well lined up. For the cake, it's a little bit fewer farmers that are taking that. So it's not necessarily a demand driving that, but it's we have farmers that are willing to take it and use it. It's a little bit, we feel like we have to make some in order to, see what the market really is and see what the acceptance is. But until you've got a lot of people demanding it, you don't want to be creating something that is difficult to go. So it's a little bit of which something has to come first. The other part is in the spring, with that product, Commissioner Freeze, is that it does take just a little bit of give us a little bit more margin on the spring haul out. So, so you can breathe a little more comfortably. You never know how that weather's going to go. So every week we run that gets us approximately a day's worth of storage there. So it doesn't sound like much, but if we can get 2 weeks, 10 days of run, that's a couple weeks you've extended your storage window there. So give us a little more breathing room.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the last slide here with clean water. Again, the clean water represents what we're discharging, returning to the environment. This, at this point, is all going through Badfish Creek. So pretty much on pace, that's pretty much we send out what we get. Biogas and reused effluent. The reused effluent is what we call W4 in plant. So that's basically consider it potable water that we're not buying. So, we're getting that, reclaiming that from our effluent. Lisa, actually, I don't know that she did mention, but we do have a project coming up for, W4 improvements. It's a smaller project, that'll help us with this particular reuse in the plant. So, any questions on this slide? I do have one quick update. I don't have a slide for it. We decided we didn't really need it, but the day we had this meeting last month, I think it was the 27th of March, we had DNR on site for our 5-year air permit compliance review. That meeting went well. They asked for some additional information for things, but that's pretty typical. Verbally, we got that there was no significant findings or anything of concern. The one item that is still being looked at a little bit is, as mentioned earlier with Eric's presentation on the engines, we had, after the controls upgrade, when we did the stack test in May of 2024, one of the engines was over on carbon monoxide emissions, and quickly looked at that and determined that that was a control setting, so we got that fixed. I think it was within a couple days. The engine was running fine, no indications that there was a problem. We did the retest, passed with flying colors. There was some, so DNR was looking at that a little bit. I don't expect anything from that. We have not yet seen the final report on that, though, but felt like everything went well on that overall. But that would be the only area that there may be some comment that I would anticipate possibly some follow-up on. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Paul, regulatory and legal.
Yes, basically this is time where we're kind of services March. Obviously, we have the litigation going on Badger Mill Creek and the condemnation. Those are proceeding. In addition to that, in terms of more general legal services, continue to monitor and work on the Clean Water Fund, what's happening at the state level. On PFAS, we worked with Marty's group on commenting on the EPA biosolids risk assessment, although apparently EPA has just extended the deadline for comment out into August. So it's possible we might have the chance for additional comment. Number of contract things, a number of land and easement acquisition matters that we've been working on. Baker Tilly audit contract we were looking at. Then number of open records request issues that we've been working our way through. So all in all, month, but in our budget, so that's been helpful. The one thing I guess I will note on the Badger Mill Creek litigation, all of the briefs are in. It's now before the court. Did have a settlement discussion on a preliminary basis with the city of Verona and DNR. That was mostly an overture to see where they are. They have not gotten back to us on that, and there's really nothing more to report for closed session today. But at the point we actually have some substance to report, we can.
Okay, so that's any questions on regulatory and legal? Seeing none. Future meeting schedule, that's in the packet. I don't think anything really major came up. Do you have a question on that?
Yeah, sorry, I just have a comment here. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. So just for commissioners to understand, the two May meetings are going to be longer. There's a lot going on. We have some pretty major topics in both of those meetings, and specifically the first meeting of May is going to be about some project updates and things, and then the second one is going to be about our budget process. We're going to give the commission and others presentation on our schedule and priorities and have some discussion around that.
Okay, thank you. So those will be important meetings. Plan on them being longer. So, do we have a motion to convene in closed sessions in accordance with 19851C of the Wisconsin statutes to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and specifically related to executive director performance review? Motion by Commissioner Clark. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Murphy.
Second by Commissioner Murphy. Okay, motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Murphy to go into closed session. Roll call.
Commissioner Bookland?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Freeze?
Aye.
Commissioner Havel?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Murphy?
Aye.
Commissioner Pulse?
Okay, we have a unanimous vote to go into closed session, so we'll go back to that meeting room.
Jen.
for the 6 months. So, and that completes that item. Any future agenda topics? Any other business? Ken? Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by, is that Dan raising his thumb up? Does Commissioner Paltz? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Sun's coming out. Yeah, it was like a nice afternoon yesterday when the